Good morning. How's everybody out there in YouTube land? One Virginia dude coming at you. Um, Gonna switch gears a little bit. I know everybody today is all hung up on politics and Donald Trump and the National Guard and all this stuff. Yeah, I've got a few things to say about that, but that's for another time. I think the jury is still out on a lot of that. Um, my heart does go out to the people of West Virginia. Um, and having their two dedicated members of the National Guard shot, one of them killed by a Afghan terrorist. But anyway, I gotta just put that in the back burner right now. I just was thinking about something. Everybody hates buying a car. Okay, I've had three root canals done in my life, and I'm getting ready to have another one done later this week. And I would rather have a root canal than try and buy a new car. Um, as we all know, the current brick and mortar dealership model dates back to the probably the 1930s. Um, you know, buying a car is not the same as buying something else where you go direct from the manufacturer. Um, it's not even the same as buying an appliance. Home Depot is a dealer of LG appliances. So you buy an appliance at Lowe's, you buy an appliance at Home Depot or whatnot. It's basically the same thing. You look at their prices, you see if they offer any discounts, and you make a decision and you go and buy it. Buying a car is a little more complicated than that. It's the same product from the manufacturer, but we all know the shenanigans that car dealers play. They'll say, well, this car is $17,000. There's a factory rebate of $500, and there's a military rebate for $500. So the car is $16,000, right? Yeah, sure. Okay. So they won't give you an out the door price. So you walk in, you want to see this car. Okay, I've got the military rebate, I've got this rebate, whatever. And then you go to do the paperwork, and all of a sudden there's all these extra fees on it. And the worst one here in Virginia is what they call a processing fee. Okay. And at a new car dealer, the cheapest one I've seen is $499, and they go all the way to $999. That's just pure profit for the dealer on top of whatever price you negotiate. So, you get a $500 rebate, a $500 military discount or whatever, but then they have a $999 processing fee added onto it. Okay. So then you sit down in the finance office and they say, well, we've got a loan for you at 8% or whatever. And you'll notice that they always try and talk about what they want your payment to be. They don't want to talk about the price of the car. They just want to say, well, what are you looking for as your payment? So then you look at it and they've got like $400 for nitrogen in your tires. Well, the atmosphere is 80% nitrogen anyway, or almost 80% nitrogen. Um, I actually had one car dealership sales rep try to tell me that if you have green tire valve caps, that means your tires have to be filled with nitrogen. I'm like, oh man. I was born at night, but I wasn't born last night. Um, but a lot of people suggest that it'd be a great idea to be able to buy a car directly from the manufacturer, like Chevrolet, Ford, Chrysler, whatever. I guess even Nissan, because Nissan builds cars in the United States now too. Um, so does Honda. Um, Dealers for a long time have had the reputation of being corrupt, but we saw how bad they were during the COVID crisis when they were putting, $20,000 markups on cars just because they could, because the supply was less than the demand. I get it. I'm a capitalist. I understand. But now a lot of dealerships are suffering from leftover inventory. And, you go to buy a nice Toyota Tacoma pickup truck, which is mid-size, a nice Ford Ranger, mid-size, a nice Chevy Colorado or a GMC Canyon, and you're looking at upwards of $50,000. That used to be able to buy you a fully loaded, Ford F-150 King Ranch Platinum. Okay. Now the prices have gotten out of hand. Now you can't blame the high prices totally on the dealerships. Okay. Sure. But if you could buy something from a manufacturer, would there be any discounts? Would it help if we had pricing transparency instead? Like when you go to buy a car, um, you'll see cars advertised from different dealers, and you have to look at the fine print. One dealer might offer you, well, this is the price, but that includes a student rebate, the veteran rebate. Um, you know, um, I don't know, if you're a government employee, you get a rebate. They have all these different little rebates and incentives, but the prices sometimes will show what it is with an incentive that you don't get. Then you have the issue of your trade in. Okay. If your trade in is worth 8, they're going to try and get your trade down to about, say, 6 grand. They make money on that. The last thing a dealer wants you to do is actually walk in and be able to pay cash for a car. It might make the transaction easy, but it takes out a lot of the places where they can scam you. Like they'll get a bank loan approved at 5%, and they'll tell you, Mr. Smith, we can get you down to 7%, and they keep the difference. They'll try and sell you the extended warranty, which is a huge markup. They'll try and, the paint protection package and the nitrogen air in the tires, or the fabric protector, which is like a can of Scotch Guard. That's another $200. They have all these little things that they just add into it. And I guess if some people are dumb enough to pay for it all the time, then you know they're going to take their money. But if you could buy a car directly from the dealer, what does that mean? Does that mean there's no more haggling? This is the price wherever you live. Aside from your tax. The brick and mortar dealership concept has really, it's outdated, it's archaic, it's expensive. But the National Automobile Dealers Association, or NADA, is very powerful with their lobbying. They have their mitts in state and local governments everywhere, as well as the federal government. There are certain things that they kind of get what they want. Here in Virginia, with the processing fees, they will have a sign at every dealer, and it'll say this dealership charges a $799 processing fee. And they'll have a picture of the state code below it, meaning that, oh, that must be official. It's the state code. It's required by the state. No, it's not. It's not required. They don't have to charge it. The state just says they can charge it. And it used to be they did it for DMV work. And back in the 90s, the processing fees were like 150, maybe you might have one for 279, and they just keep kicking it up every couple of years. That's just pure dealer profit. Dealers do their online work with their DMV work is online. So, yeah, they got the back of the house, they've got an administrative assistant, but that's not your responsibility as a customer. That's the dealership's cost. That's not yours. Some dealerships will even charge you what they get charged as a business license tax by their county. Now, there again, that's not the only obligation you should have when you buy a car. You have the price, and you have the tax, title, and tags. You have the state sales tax, the license plate fee from DMV, and your title fee. That should be all the extras that you pay. None of this other crap. They're just trying to push their costs onto you. And it becomes to the point where it's a ripoff. Would buying directly from the factory stop that? Yeah, you'd probably stop some of it. You'd make the process simpler. But you also have to look at it, okay, what if you need warranty work? What if you need service? What if you need parts? The dealership is kind of a necessary evil, even though the model is very archaic, very inefficient, and very costly. Dealerships have a lot of overhead they have to pay for, and they're going to try and suck that out of you. A while back, Tesla came up with the theory that you could order a car online, have it built the way you wanted to, and they would bring it right to your house. And when you needed service, they would send a guy out in a van to fix it. That was a threat to the automobile industry. And I know in New Jersey and North Carolina, the NADA, the dealer networks actually went and took legal action against Tesla. Not that they were worried about losing sales to Tesla, but it disrupted their business model. Okay. Um, Owning a car dealership is like owning a printing press to print money. Those guys are doing pretty well. Okay. Some of your small town dealers might struggle a little bit, but a lot of these are owned, like you've got your Sheehy, you've got your not Sanderson, what starts with an S. You've got Passport. You've got all these mega dealers that own a whole lot of different dealership franchises. They know how to play the game. They've been doing it a long time. But every dealership, look at how many people they have working there. If you have a direct buy where you can go online and order a new Ford pickup truck, how do you technically bypass the dealer? Um, that truck is going to be transported from the factory. Now, I wish you could order a vehicle online and go to the factory and pick it up yourself and avoid the $1,295 destination fee, which is a bunch of crap. That's a fee that gets paid to the carrier to bring the car to the dealer. But even if you pick your car up at the point of assembly, you still have to pay that. The dealership still has to pay that, so they have to charge you for it. I guess it's a contract they have with the unionized trucking carriers. I don't know, but there's a lot of costs that are, you can't really get around it. But also, if you have a used car, if you got rid of the franchise dealer network, how does that work? You'd have to sell it on your own, um, or there's going to be used car only dealers. But then how do you get rid of your other car if you want to buy another one? Most people don't have the money to tie their money up like that. There are certain functions that warranty work. Dealerships contain that. Now, if we did eventually move to a system, which I do think the industry is going to change. It's just a matter of when, but it's inevitable. The franchise brick and mortar dealership is going to change drastically in the coming years. Is it going to happen in my lifetime? I don't know, but I just think that the current system is just, there's so much bloat and waste in it, but it's almost a necessary evil. Um, it's like if you buy, let's say you buy a bottle of bourbon, okay, you go to your local liquor store. In most states, you can't buy the liquor from the wholesaler. You can't buy direct from the manufacturer because there's a lot of laws and people have their hands in the till. They have these things baked into the system so that it makes it harder to get around it. Um, in Virginia, if you wanted to buy 100 cases of Jim Beam, you still can't do it. Um, you have to do it through the state. They have a socialist monopoly on that. Um, you know, how do you, if you have leverage when you buy a car, you can usually go to a couple different dealers if you want to buy a new Toyota. There's not going to be a whole lot of wiggle room there, but you can sometimes get one dealer to give you a little bit better price than another dealer. If you bought directly from the manufacturer, I suspect that there would be no negotiation. You can negotiate with a local dealer. You're not going to be able to negotiate with a Toyota rep. I don't see that happening. I think if we can't reform the system, maybe price transparency might be a way to go. Um, get rid of the gimmicks. Um, Easier said than done, but I just know that you know, when you're buying a car every couple of years and you're going against people who do it regularly for a living, they definitely have the upper hand. They have the advantage. Um, I hate to see people get ripped off. I mean, I'm a capitalist as much as anybody else. I've got nothing wrong with turning a fair profit. That's not an issue. But the outright rip off stuff that they do, that should cause people to get their bowels in an uproar. I don't see how people aren't angry about that. But it's just, you ever get the feeling that you go to buy a car and you think you get a good price and you just have this feeling that like you drive out of there and they all high five when you go out the door. But a lot of dealerships don't make the vast amount of their profit on selling new cars. They really don't. Even, I mean, they can get factory to dealer incentives, they can get the holdback and stuff like that, but they make their money on the back of the house. The finance and insurance guy, when you work out a price on a car and you go into that office and you sit down, that's for the guy who picks the meat off your bones. The guy who tries to sell you the extended warranty, and nothing's worse than you have a salesman give you this pitch about how great their cars are and how wonderful it is and how great it would look in your driveway and years of trouble-free motoring, and then the first thing they try and do is sell you a warranty package. That doesn't sound very reassuring, but nevertheless, that's how they roll. Um, they make money on parts and service, and that's understandable. But there are so many costs that people end up paying for, and it just, I strive to see things to be more efficient, and there's definitely the model they have is completely inefficient. But how do you get from there to here is the thing. Is it going to solve is it going to solve the problem if people can buy a car direct from the dealer, or from the manufacturer? You know, what if you buy a car and it has a problem? Is every manufacturer going to have, you know, a way to handle that? One possibility, a friend of mine said that he thought that it would make sense to buy from the manufacturer, and then each manufacturer would have a repair facility that would specialize in service and warranty work. But then you're still going to have, is that going to be any better being owned by a faraway corporation than by a local dealer? That might not be that great of a solution. I understand with the electric vehicles, like a Tesla, it is easy for a guy to come out and fix it with a van. With internal combustion engines and other cars like that, sometimes you actually need a place with a lift, with a mechanic, with tools and things like that. Um, but I just know that the existing model is archaic, inefficient, and it's a ripoff for many people. But you know, our dealership's also a necessary evil. How can you eliminate the quote unquote middleman? Maybe you can't, but it's like everybody knows that the system has a lot of problems, but nobody can really design the solution to it. I think Tesla is onto something the way they do it. Um, Price transparency. This is how much the car costs. Um, and with Tesla, how's it going to affect them if the credits expire for buying an EV? Um, there again, that's a different issue. I don't think the government should be involved with any subsidies at all. A vehicle should stand or fall on its own in the free market. When you start mandating things and subsidizing things, it distorts the market and throws things out of whack. But anyway, that's just some of my feelings on it. I know that I the last vehicle I bought was a used car. My wife bought a new car back in the spring, and yes, she paid too much for it, but it was the only one within 700 miles with the color and the trim that she wanted. But I I've got one. My car is about 5 years old now. It's paid for, and then I've got an old pickup truck that's 22 years old. That's like kind of my part-time vehicle. I don't plan on replacing either of them anytime soon. But nevertheless, it is maddening that you just feel like they want to play a bunch of games, and you go to buy a car. And the worst thing you can do if you ever go in there, don't ever tell them you're going to pay cash. Don't talk about a monthly payment. Just ask them for an out the door price. And if they won't do that, um, then they're probably not worth doing business with. A lot of times, if you call them or email them, they're going to be very hesitant to give you an out the door price where it's itemized, because it shows if they have any rip-off fees in there. One dealership in the Richmond area was charging it was like $200 for locking lug nuts. $200. I mean, you could probably buy something like that on Amazon for about $10. It's just that kind of crap that puts a it gives the whole industry a bad name. I know not all dealers are like that. Some of them really do want to treat people fairly, but it seems like those are in the minority now. Um, and there are certain car buying services you can use, like TrueCar or USAA or whatever, and you can go online, but when you submit an inquiry, it'll give you 3 or 4 dealers and it shows their price for the car. The problem is you have to give your phone and your email information to them. So as soon as you do that in order to get that price, your phone's going to start ringing off the wall, even if you're in the earlier stages of just considering a model. So, um, and if you ever call somebody and you talk to the internet manager and you're interested in a particular vehicle you have, ask them, can somebody put hands on that car? Use that expression, say, put hands on it. And that means that they will probably assume that you know a little bit about the car industry. But a lot of times, they will have a vehicle available that they really don't have available. And the idea is that, well, maybe they'll get you in and get you into something else. So just do your homework. But it's just something I thought of. It's like I'm always trying to think, is there a better way to do this? Does something else make sense? Why are we paying all this overhead? And I just got to thinking, if buying a car were more like buying an appliance, you know, it would make life easier. But then again, appliances oftentimes don't break down, and if you have an appliance that needs repair, somebody obviously comes to the house. You don't take your appliance, at least if it's a big appliance, you don't take your appliance to the shop. They will send somebody out. And it makes me wonder, would a manufacturer be able to work out a system where they could have a, like a mobile guy who could do stuff like that? Just I'm thinking in the future. But it just seems like right now we're supporting a whole lot of overhead. We're supporting a lot of deadwood in the business that adds costs. So that's just my thought. I've gone on long enough. Anyway, have a safe day.